The world is full of those who rail against God in their self-righteousness and presume that the Creator of the universe is obliged to make their life smooth. But there are only a few who own up to the fact that God owes us nothing, and that any good to come our way will be due to His mercy, not our merit. The two thieves represent these two ways of responding to suffering and relating to Christ in suffering. Notice first how similar they are. Both are suffering the pain of crucifixion. Both are guilty of crime. Both see Jesus, the sign over his head. They hear the words from his mouth, "Father, forgive them," and both of these thieves want desperately to be saved from death. Most of us have all these things in common. There has been, is, and always will be suffering in our lives. And none of us will be able to say, "I do not deserve this." Most of us have seen Jesus on the cross and have heard his claim to kingship and his gracious words of forgiveness. And all of us want to be saved from death one way or another. The first thief says, "Are you not the Christ? Save yourself and us." What a picture of a spiritually destitute, worldly man. It is a matter of total indifference to him that he is suffering the due reward of his deeds. To him right and wrong, praise and blame, good and bad are of no interest. His one objective is to save his earthly skin. He might even believe Jesus is the Messiah, the King of the Jews. But, it's only a matter of convenience to him. He'll take anybody as king who can get him off the cross. Just another patsy to serve his own worldly purposes. That's the way one whole segment of humans relates to God in suffering. Suffering interrupts their private, worldly goals and pleasures. So why not try God? If you are king, then get me out of this mess. It's the old carjack theology. A carjack is a dirty, useless thing to be kept out of sight in the trunk until you have a flat tire or a little suffering. Then you get it out, let it do the dirty work, and put it away again. The thief had no spirit of brokenness, or guilt, or penitence, or humility. He could only see Jesus as a possible power by which to escape the cross. He did not see him as a king to be followed. It never entered his mind that he should say he was sorry and should change. But notice the other thief. This one is the one Luke wants us to be like. First, he is not sucked in by the other fellow's railing. And if we are to follow his example, we will have to stand our ground and not be sucked in by the people all around us who say, "If your God is so great and loving, then why the 20 kids shot in Atlanta? Why 16 miners buried in a cave? Why a village slaughtered in El Salvador? Why doesn't he come down off his helpless perch on the cross and do something?" The first thing the repentant thief does is not get deceived by all this talk. But he rebuked him saying, "Do you not fear God?" This is the second thing about this penitent thief. He feared God. God was real to him. God was his creator, and he knew that a pot can't take up arms against the potter and come away victorious. It is fitting that creatures bow in submission before their creator and subject all their life to his wisdom. It is even more fitting that sinful creatures bow before God in holy fear, instead of railing against God as if a rebel ant should kick against the foothills of Mount Everest and demand that it flatten out so the ant can walk across. Third, the penitent thief admitted that he had done wrong. He had no desire to save face anymore, he had no more will to assert himself. He was here and laid open before the God he feared, and there was no way to hide his guilt. I know people right now who are in trouble. But instead of laying down their self-righteous defenses, they are devising every means to finagle and distort so as to appear innocent or victimized. The penitent thief gave it up. It's a hopeless tack, anyway, before an all-knowing God. Fourth, not only did he admit to wrong and guilt, he accepted his punishment as deserved. We are under the sentence of condemnation justly. This is the real test of humility before God. Many will mouth the confession of sin. God be merciful to us miserable sinners, but when some trouble comes, they get angry at him. And this anger reveals that they do not really feel undeserving before God. They still feel, deep down, that they have some rights before God. There are not many people like Job, who, when he lost everything, said, "Naked I came from my mother's womb and naked shall I return. The Lord gave and the Lord has taken away, blessed be the name of the Lord." But this penitent thief did become like Job in the last minutes of his life. He took his suffering without complaint, and feared God. Fifth, the thief acknowledged Jesus' righteousness. This man had done nothing wrong. It didn't make any difference to the first thief if Jesus was right or wrong. If he could drive the getaway car, that's all that mattered. But it matters a lot to Jesus if we think his life was good or bad. Jesus does not want to drive a getaway car, he wants to be followed because we admire him. We must say with the thief, "This man has done nothing wrong. This man only does what is good. This man only speaks the truth. This man is worthy of our faith and allegiance and imitation." And then, sixth, the thief goes a step further and acknowledges that indeed, Jesus is a king. "Remember me when you come into your kingdom." Even though he is suffering now, Jesus has the mark of a king. For those who have eyes to see, he has a power here on the cross, a power of love that makes him king over all his tormentors. He is not only good, he is powerful, and one day he will vindicate his great name, and every knee will bow and confess that Jesus is Lord, to the glory of God, the Father. And finally, the penitent thief does one more thing. He fears God, admits wrong, accepts justice, acknowledges the goodness and power of Jesus. Now he pleads for help. "Jesus, remember when you come into your kingdom." Both thieves wanted to be saved from death. But oh, how differently they sought their salvation. 1. Are you not the Christ? Save yourself and us. 2. Jesus, remember when you come into your kingdom. There is an infinite qualitative difference between the two. Now what motive does Jesus give us to follow in the steps of the penitent thief? There is a fearful silence toward the railing thief, not a word recorded of Jesus to him. Perhaps a final pitying glance. But no promise. No hope. But to the penitent Jesus says, "Today you will be with me in paradise." This was almost too good. There would not even be a delay. Today the spirit of Jesus and the renewed spirit of the thief would be in union in paradise. The promise would be without delay.